The story takes place in a hospital's emergency room. The doctor's assistant, panicked, informs the doctor that the patient is having trouble breathing. The doctor immediately calls for the ventilator. Jin Leshan, a mechanical engineer, lies on the hospital bed, his body failing him after years of relentless overwork. His heart has suffered a stroke, and now he teeters on the brink of death. From the moment of his birth, fate has been merciless. His parents perished in a car crash, leaving him an orphan. After graduating, he spent 2 decades trapped in a company, enduring a nightmare of a life with pitifully low wages. Never once in his existence has he known love. He has been single his entire life, untouched by a woman's warmth. He wanks it constantly, and has a premium subscription to OnlyFans. Well, the author didn't say that, but come on, it's pretty obvious. The doctor yells his name, urgency lacing his voice, but Jin questions the very meaning of a life like his. What was the purpose of all those years of toil and suffering? The doctor continues calling out to him, but he does not respond. The medical team rushes to use the AED. His vision begins to blur, exhaustion creeping into his bones like an unstoppable tide. He feels the weight of his fatigue pulling him under. Perhaps, just for a moment, he should rest. Darkness engulfs him. The scene shifts to a grand royal mansion, where the protagonist slowly opens his eyes. As he takes in the luxurious surroundings, he wonders if he has been hospitalized and how much the medical expenses would be. Just as confusion begins to set in, a glowing window notification appears before him, welcoming him to the magical continent of Eldria. Instinctively, he tries to reach for it, but a sharp pain courses through his body, forcing him to stop. It is then that he notices his reflection in a nearby mirror, and a wave of shock overtakes him. His own face appears unfamiliar, leaving him questioning why he looks so different. A week passes, and he gradually adapts to his new reality. Seated calmly in his chambers, he is soon greeted by a maid with unbelievably gorgeous plot armor, who enters the room and respectfully informs him that the tea is ready. Addressing him as Master Reen, he thanks her, now familiar with her name Leah. If being overworked and underpaid means big knockers like this bring you tea every morning, then I need to start posting 10 videos a day. In the span of a week, he has come to understand his situation. He has died and been reincarnated as Reen Edgar, the 3rd son of Duke Aldarian Edgar. With an elder brother and a sister, he finds himself in a noble family of considerable status. At the family dining table, he is met with warmth and generosity. The household treats him with kindness, offering a variety of exquisite dishes. His mother, in an affectionate display of care, presents him with a newly tailored jacket. As the youngest member of the Edgar family, he is cherished by everyone around him. A thought lingers in his mind. Perhaps this newfound happiness serves as a remedy for the misery he endured in his past life. Eldria, the vast continent he now inhabits, is a world where magic governs every aspect of existence. The Carinorial Empire stands as the largest human dominion, but humanity does not stand alone. Numerous other races, including elves and dwarves, coexist across the land. His noble lineage grants him authority over an expansive territory, home to approximately 1 million people and covering 300,000 square kilometers. With his noble status comes a life of luxury, including access to all possible comforts and the dedicated service of a personal maid. He convinces himself that this peaceful and privileged life is the reward for the hardships he endured in his previous existence. Lee approaches him with a message from the lord of the household. The Duke wishes to speak with him. Upon reaching the study, the butler announces his arrival before he is allowed to enter. His father, Aldarian Edgar, as he addresses his son. The discussion quickly turns to an important matter. Reen has reached the age where he must take responsibility for his own territory. When asked if he has made his decision, he is left momentarily speechless. His father appears slightly disappointed before proceeding to reveal the details. The territory assigned to him lies in the northwest, a region that remains secure yet suffers from a severe food shortage due to a lack of mages. The conversation takes a more solemn tone as his father continues, explaining that while their family's domain remains stable, the empire itself faces an uncertain future. The decline of the royal family, rampant corruption, and growing conflicts among the lords threaten the empire's long-term stability. Reen acknowledges the truth in his father's words, recognizing the challenges that lie ahead. Since his reincarnation, he has experienced a level of warmth and care he never knew in his previous life. This realization strengthens his resolve, and he silently vows never to lose the people he now holds dear. Sensing the weight of his thoughts, his father reassures him that he is not alone and that both his siblings and the family will always support him. However, Reen's mind remains focused on the problem at hand. He considers the relationship between food supply, security, and wonders if solving the shortage would also improve the overall stability of the region. His father, however, is quick to temper his expectations, reminding him that such matters are far more complex than they seem. While his father views his concerns as those of an inexperienced child, Reen remains determined. Armed with knowledge from his past life, his understanding of industry and production, he refuses to accept defeat. With unwavering conviction, he assures his father that he will find a way to resolve the food crisis. Aisling City stands as the westernmost territory of the Edgar family, To its north lies enemy territory, while to the west stretches the domain of the elves. The vast ocean borders its southern frontier. Positioned at the intersection of three nations, the city has long been a battleground, frequently engulfed in wars that have left its lands barren and its population drastically depleted, with only a handful of residents remaining. Seated inside the carriage on his way to Aisling City, Reen contemplates the challenges ahead. For an industrial revolution to take root, he requires a sufficient labor force, and to achieve that, he must first increase the population. As he ponders his next steps, a sudden notification appears before him. It is his ability. The system prompts him to activate the scanning function, an ability that allows him to assess the stats of any individual he examines. Having tested it on his family members, he has already gained a basic understanding of the people in this world. His primary objective upon arrival is clear. He must recruit talented individuals to aid in his plans. Lee silently observes him, recalling the instructions given by his father. Aldarian had tasked her with keeping a close watch on Reen, concerned that he might act recklessly. She hopes he does not cause unnecessary trouble. At the Lord's mansion in Aisling City, a figure relays information, stating that Reen will soon arrive. Wary of Reen's presence and asks if they should take action. Rumors have long suggested that Aldarian is excessively doting on his youngest son, and Reen is beloved by his siblings as well. However, a masked man calmly dismisses the concern, instructing him to wait for their master's orders. The subordinate hesitates before voicing his worries. What if Reen discovers the financial fraud they have been conducting? With a scoff, the masked man dismisses the notion. Convinced that a sheltered noble like Reen would know nothing about tax records, he instructs his subordinate to present Reen with misleading financial accounts upon his arrival, ensuring confusion. Satisfied with his plan, he orders the man to prepare for Reen's reception with a smirk. He mutters that it is time for Aldarian Edgar to pay for his crimes. As Reen's carriage reaches Aisling City, he immediately takes note of its desolation. Wasting no time, he requests a map, and Lee promptly hands it to him. A thought takes shape. Constructing a canal and connecting it to the seaport could revitalize the area. A distressing scene unfolds before him. A young woman desperately pleads with her father, urging him to stop gambling. Tears stream down her face as she cries that the money is meant for her mother's medical treatment. But the man, indifferent to her desperation, attempts to snatch it from her grasp. He insists that this time he will win. As she struggles to stop him, his frustration boils over, and he raises his hand, prepared to strike her. Without hesitation, Reen intervenes, delivering a solid punch to the man. Pain shoots through his own fist, but he does not falter. Leah, visibly alarmed, scolds him for acting impulsively, insisting that he should have informed her beforehand so she could prepare his protective gear. "We can't win, fellas. If he doesn't protect the woman, he's weak. When he does get violent, she's upset." R.I.P. Reen dismisses her concern, reasoning that there would not have been enough time for such preparations. Instead, he instructs her to check on the girl while he handles the gambler, turning his attention back to the man. He demands to know if he has lost his mind. The terrified gambler stammers, demanding Reen's identity. Unfazed, Reen tells him that his name is irrelevant, instead issuing a cold threat. If he dares to gamble again, Reen will personally see to it that his head is severed. Fear grips the man, and he scrambles away, swearing never to gamble again. With the situation diffused, Reen shifts his focus back to the girl, asking if she is unharmed. As he scans her, he is momentarily stunned. Her stats are extraordinary. Possessing a wholly agricultural body, she holds the potential to revolutionize farming efforts. Recognizing her immense value, he immediately considers recruiting her. He invites her to travel with him to town, as they are headed there anyway. However, she hesitates, expressing concern that she will dirty the carriage. Her worry is of no consequence to Reen, who remains unfazed. Instead, his curiosity turns to another matter. Why does a casino even exist in a city where the people are so impoverished? The previous fall, the Duke of the enemy nation launched an attack on their town, resulting in the deaths of many soldiers. Spring brought a catastrophic flood that destroyed most of the region's crops. The people's lives descended into sheer misery, with even the basic act of finding food becoming an arduous struggle. Alright, this story is starting to hit a little too close to home. Reen contemplates the necessity of conducting a census to assess the region's productive forces. Before making any plans, he resolves to visit the Lord's estate to determine how much cash is available for development. Turning to Lillian, he inquires about the estate's location. But before she can respond, a sudden clatter of hooves disrupts the street. A man on horseback gallops through the town, callously shooing away pedestrians. Reacting swiftly, Lee pushes Reen aside, narrowly avoiding a collision. As the rider passes, Lee fixes her gaze on him while Reen, stuck in her spectacular plot armor, struggles to catch his breath. My man can't breathe like George Floyd in that plot armor. Concerned, she asks if he is all right, and he reassures her that he is fine. Regaining his composure, he turns to Lillian and asks if she knows who the rider was. Lillian discloses that the man is the young master of the Adrian family, the owners of all the casinos in the city. Reen immediately deduces that they must be extraordinarily wealthy, and a thought strikes him. His problem of securing development funds may have just been solved. Without hesitation, he instructs her to lead them to the casino. However, Lillian warns him against going, cautioning that he will undoubtedly be scammed. Dismissing her concerns, he assures her that he is not worried. Watching his confidence, she silently wonders just how powerful Reen truly is. Upon arriving at the casino, he steps inside and is immediately greeted by the lively chaos of the gambling hall. The air is thick with excitement and desperation as gamblers eagerly place their bets, some celebrating their wins while others lament their losses. Observing the scene, Reen recognizes the danger. So long as casinos exist, people will never dedicate themselves to work. Lee discreetly approaches him and informs him that they have surrounded the building. He instructs her to wait, intent on luring out the big fish. A staff member soon approaches and politely asks what game he would like to play. Reen requests something simple. The attendant promptly leads him to a table, where he is given 2 free chips to try his luck. As the game begins, the staff watches him with thinly veiled amusement. He places his bet, and as expected, the outcome is rigged. The dice are checked, and he loses. The staff member, maintaining his friendly demeanor, encourages him to continue playing. Finding the entire experience tedious, Reen decides he has seen enough and turns to leave. Before he can exit, the staff stops him, demanding payment for the money he supposedly owes. Raising an eyebrow, Reen questions how he could possibly be in debt. The staff member smugly informs him that he must pay for the 2 chips he received earlier. Reen counters that they were given to him for free, but the man laughs, stating that nothing in this casino comes without a price. With a malicious grin, the staff reveals that each chip is valued at 100 gold coins, and with the addition of service charges, Reen owes a total of 250 gold coins that he cannot afford to pay. He is welcome to leave his maid behind as collateral. Before Reen can respond, Lillian steps forward. She exposes the blatant lie, revealing that each chip is, in reality, worth only a single silver coin. The staff member's expression darkens, his embarrassment swiftly turning to rage. He orders one of the guards to beat her into silence. Before the command can be carried out, Reen moves with lightning speed, delivering a devastating punch that sends the man flying across the room, crashing into a nearby table. He demands to know who permitted the man to speak in the first place. The chaos in the casino momentarily halts as gamblers scramble to collect the scattered coins from the fallen table. Observing their desperation, Reen realizes just how hopeless the people had become. At that moment, the man from earlier, the young master of the Edwin family, steps forward. Reen's lips curl into a knowing smile. The big fish has finally taken the bait. The gamblers turn their fearful gazes toward Vizurlo as he coldly orders his guards to beat them. The guards comply without hesitation, striking the helpless gamblers as they beg for mercy. The atmosphere in the casino is thick with terror, and Vizurlo warns everyone to behave if they wish to avoid further punishment. Lillian watches in horror, guilt knowing at her for leading Reen to such a dangerous place. Determined to repay him for saving her mother, she steps forward. The onlookers whisper among themselves, convinced that she is being foolish and will only get herself beaten. Vizurlo narrows his eyes at her and demands to know if she has something to say. She accuses his casino of scamming people, ruining families, and preying on the weak. She declares that she will not allow him to bully Reen. Amused by her audacity, Vizurlo raises his hand to strike her. She clenches her eyes shut, bracing for impact. But the blow never comes. Reen effortlessly catches Vizurlo's wrist as he scans him. Vizurlo is utterly talentless, and his loyalty rating is a mere 5. The implications are clear. The Adrian family could rebel at any moment. Vizurlo scoffs, remarking that Reen does not seem to approve of his methods. To his surprise, Reen calmly replies that he is, in fact, very fond of his ways. Then, without hesitation, he questions whether Reen even knows who he is. He asks why that would matter and, unimpressed, states that he does not care for titles. There is only one thing he wants to know. With a slow, deliberate clap of his hands, the doors burst open as soldiers flood into the casino. Reen coldly announces that his word is law. The scene shifts to a lavish banquet, where wealthy aristocrats engage in casual conversation. One noble expresses hope that his daughter might catch Rein's attention, securing a favorable connection. Another noble, Adrian, scoffs at the idea, calling him naive for trying to leech off Rein's success with such a cheap tactic. A woman raises her glass, offering him a toast. He wonders where Vizirlo is and muses that if he arrives soon, they can work together to establish a beneficial relationship with Rein. He knows better than to place his trust entirely in the town's lord. Finally, Rein makes his entrance at the banquet. The heads of various noble families scramble to earn his favor, showering him with extravagant gifts. Uninterested, he brushes past their gestures and instead signals for the meeting to begin. Servants bring forth a whiteboard, and Rein unveils a blueprint he has drawn. The nobles peer at it in confusion, having never encountered such a design before. He explains that it is a dam, seeing their skepticism. He assures them that he will clarify everything. Turning to Leah, he asks for the map. Rein details his observations. Every year, the city suffers from devastating floods. By constructing a dam at a strategic location, they can control the water flow and prevent the floods. Adrian listens intently, his skepticism giving way to admiration. Solving the flood problem would also resolve their food shortages, and it dawns on him that Rein is not as simple as he once thought. One of the family heads interrupts, questioning what any of this has to do with them. Rein responds bluntly, he needs funding. The nobles immediately reject his request, making feeble excuses about their own supposed financial struggles. Adrian remarks that Rein is far too naive to think these nobles would ever part with their wealth voluntarily. Unfazed, Rein reveals that he has already secured funds. That very morning, he raided a casino and seized 50,000 gold coins. He inquires about the number of other casinos in the city. A tense silence falls over the room. The family heads stare at him in shock, their expressions betraying their alarm. Unbeknownst to Rein, they have all secretly invested in the casinos, and his actions have now placed him in direct conflict with them. Adrian, in particular, is livid. He had not expected Rein to move so boldly against his interests. Thinking quickly, he conceals his anger, calling Rein a fool for breaking the law, and other nobles immediately rally behind him, attempting to pressure Rein into issuing an apology. They argue that casinos are legal businesses and that raiding them is a blatant violation of the law. Adrian smugly declares that Rein's actions expose his inexperience. He does not know how to truly control people. Rein, however, does not flinch. Instead, he calls them liars, accusing them of feigning poverty while hoarding wealth. His voice is sharp as he delivers an ultimatum. Either they relinquish their corrupt earnings willingly, or he will make them. Adrian, unwilling to back down, warns him that his father will not be pleased with his reckless behavior. The nobles double down on their pressure, trying to force Rein into submission, but Rein simply smirks. If they wish to discuss the law, then so be it. Without hesitation, he orders his soldiers to seize them. With cold authority, he declares that they will discuss the law properly, behind bars. Adrian narrows his eyes as he notices Vezirlo's underlings among Rein's captives. Confusion flashes across his face. These men were always by Vezirlo's side, yet now they stand restrained before him. Rein questions whether he recognizes them without hesitation. Adrian denies any association and demands to know Rein's intentions. Remaining composed, Rein reveals the truth. The captives had attempted to assassinate him earlier that afternoon and, under interrogation, admitted that someone from Aisling City had been backing them. A subtle wave of unease washes over Adrian, though he quickly masked it. Rein orders the soldiers to release the men, but his urgency does not go unnoticed. The gathered family heads exchange glances, each aware that these men belong to Vezirlo. Adrian, for once, has found himself in an inescapable predicament, realizing the threat these men pose to his family. Adrian acts without hesitation. He draws a dagger and lunges, eliminating the assassins before they can utter another word. The banquet hall falls into stunned silence as their bodies collapse to the floor. Blood pools at his feet, composing himself. Adrian stands before the lifeless bodies and feigns remorse, claiming he acted in a fit of rage, rather than condemning him. Rein acknowledges Adrian's decisiveness, bowing his head slightly. Adrian accepts the compliment, insisting that he is unworthy of such words. However, Rein remains unimpressed. He commands the soldiers to bring forth the true culprit, eager to see if there are more nobles as exceptional as Adrian. The doors swing open as Vezirlo is dragged into the hall, his expression twisted in fury. He thrashes against the soldier's grip, bellowing threats and demanding to be freed. Shock washes over Adrian as he realizes his son has been captured as well. Vezirlo directs his hatred toward Rein, cursing him for daring to kill his men. He vows revenge, promising to break him and make him beg for death. Reen, unfazed, merely raises a brow, at Vezerlo's bravado with unwavering arrogance. Vezerlo declares that no one in Aisling City can defy him, that if he wishes Reen dead, then so it shall be. His words provoke only amusement, and Reen bursts into laughter, commending his misplaced confidence before shifting his gaze to Adrian. Before Adrian can respond, Vezerlo, still reveling in his own delusions, turns to his father, mockingly addressing him. The moment his name leaves Vezerlo's lips, Adrian's patience shatters with a cold command. He orders Vezerlo to kneel. Confusion flickers across Vezerlo's face before Adrian forcefully pushes him down. The weight of the situation finally settles upon him, and terror takes hold. Kneeling beside his son, Adrian lowers his head in submission, pleading for Reen's forgiveness. He offers everything in exchange for their lives. The realization dawns on Vezerlo as his father's earlier warnings echo in his mind. Trembling, he finally understands who he has provoked. His voice wavers as he desperately inquires if Reen is the Grand Duke's son. The answer is evident, and his arrogance crumbles. Without hesitation, he too kneels, begging for mercy. Adrian follows suit, triggering his family's loyalty to Reen. Considering the offer, Reen proposes a condition. Everything they have obtained illegally must be surrendered. Only then will he allow them to leave with their lives. Adrian, seeing no alternative, accepts the deal with gratitude, relieved that at least survival is still within reach. However, his mind remains sharp, seeking a way to shift attention away from himself. His gaze lands on Eldrick, and a plan takes shape with faint urgency. Adrian accuses the city lord of conspiring with external forces to betray the Grand Duke. The hall erupts in murmurs. Before Adrian can say another word, Reen's expression darkens. He coldly condemns Adrian's attempt to slander Eldrick and issues an immediate order for his execution. Panic engulfs Adrian. Eldrick, meanwhile, remains composed, though beneath his calm exterior lies a calculating mind. He views Reen's actions as reckless, impulsive, and easily manipulated. With practiced ease, he steps forward, offering gratitude and swearing his unwavering loyalty to Reen. Reen acknowledges him that he will never betray him, but quietly activates his scanning ability. As he observes Eldrick, he notices his greed attribute. Inside his chamber, Reen meticulously calculates his newfound wealth, determining that he has acquired approximately 100,000 gold, an amount equivalent to 2 years' worth of taxes for his city. Lee approaches, offering him his usual black tea. Accepting the cup, he questions whether she truly understands just how overfed and indulgent these nobles have become. Shifting the conversation, Lee inquires about Adrian's claim, expressing concern that if the city lord, Eldrick, truly intends to rebel, Reen's life could be in jeopardy. Without hesitation, Reen reassures her, stating that there is no need for concern. He is already aware of Eldrick's treacherous intentions but is biding his time, unable to make a move just yet. When she presses for an explanation, he reveals that he has yet to uncover whom Eldrick is working for. Unlike his adversaries who remain hidden in the shadows, Reen stands fully exposed. One wrong move could plunge everything into chaos. For now, it is best that Eldrick continues to perceive him as nothing more than a naive and ignorant rich boy. The following day, the guild master, Malcolm, scoffs at the notion presented to him, dismissing it as utter nonsense. Eldrick, however, urges him to remain calm, arguing that Reen is merely young and eager to prove his worth to his father. Malcolm, unconvinced, warns against siding with Reen, reminding Eldrick that even Reen's father would have to show deference to wizards. Eldrick, on the other hand, had been strategizing ways to bribe the wizards, yet now, Reen has unwittingly made himself a target by initiating the dam project. Malcolm contemplates confronting Reen directly, but Eldrick attempts to dissuade him. With a smirk, Eldrick remarks that Reen has managed to offend the Magic Guild, leaving himself completely isolated. Meanwhile, within Reen's mansion, he is deeply engrossed in drafting engineering schematics when Lee enters, informing him of Malcolm's unexpected arrival. Momentarily perplexed, Reen realizes that he has never encountered Malcolm before. When Malcolm steps forward, his demeanor is tense as he demands an explanation, accusing Reen of insulting the Wizards Guild. Reen, genuinely confused, inquires about when he supposedly slighted them. With growing frustration, Malcolm tells him to drop the pretense and presents a recruitment letter as evidence. Reen takes the letter and scans its contents, questioning how constructing a dam could possibly be considered an affront to wizards. Malcolm, his patience thinning, reveals the root of the issue. The letter explicitly states that applications from wizards are not being accepted. This, he asserts, is a direct provocation against the guild. Dumbfounded, Reen finds himself momentarily speechless, silently questioning whether wizards even take on physical labor in the first place. Malcolm, unwilling to relent, demands a reasonable explanation, warning that failure to provide one will result in the guild severing all cooperation with him. Reen assesses Malcolm's stats and notes that his loyalty remains stable. This confirms his suspicion. Malcolm has been manipulated by an external influence. With a composed demeanor, Reen clarifies that the matter is a mere misunderstanding and proceeds to outline 3 reasons for his decision. Firstly, wizards possess limited mana, and their abilities may not align with the project's deadlines. Secondly, wizards are exceedingly expensive to hire. For the cost of employing a single wizard, he could hire 10 laborers. Lastly, most wizards live in comfort under the guild's protection, whereas civilians have no such safety net. Malcolm, unmoved by this reasoning, counters that magic governs this world and that the talentless are naturally destined to remain beneath wizards. Reed acknowledges the truth in his statement but asserts that he does not accept it. From this moment forward, he declares he will ensure that everyone in Aisling understands that wizards are no more than civilians. Malcolm's eyes narrow as he warns Reen to retract his words if he does not wish to become the enemy of the Wizards Guild. Reen, unshaken, commands him to mind his tone, or else Leah will cut his throat for his disrespect. Malcolm's bravado wavers, and he demands to know why Reen is taking such a stance. Reen responds with unshakable confidence, stating that this law is absolute, and if Malcolm doubts him, he may put it to the test. He can order Leah to execute him and allow the court to decide the outcome. A cold shiver runs down Malcolm's spine as he processes Reen's unwavering resolve. Trembling, he ultimately concedes, offering a reluctant apology. Observing him closely, Reen notes that Malcolm's loyalty remains unchanged. However, he has yet to realize that he was merely being used as a pawn in someone else's scheme. Satisfied, Reen signals Leah to release him. Malcolm, regaining some composure, thanks him before departing. A notification flashes within Reen's mind. His quest is now complete, and he receives a reward along with a new mission. To scan 5 individuals with high stats. Setting aside his immediate concerns, he shifts his focus toward checking his rewards. Outside, Eldrick approaches Malcolm, his curiosity piqued. He inquires about the outcome of the confrontation. Malcolm, still visibly unsettled, informs him that Reen refused to yield and even went so far as to expel him. A calculating glint flickers in Eldrick's eyes. Rather than viewing this as a failure, he formulates a new plan, one that will ensure Reen respects Malcolm even more. Eldrick shares his plan, explaining that once the people refuse to work for Reen, he'll have no choice but to seek Malcolm's assistance. Malcolm questions why the people would refuse, to which Eldrick responds that the answer is simple: all of them are lazy. Malcolm, however, refuses to partake in any sabotage, stating that while he may be displeased with Reen's decisions, he has no intention of undermining him. Eldrick, undeterred, argues that these people are utterly useless and would not be starving if they were diligent workers. He questions why they would take Reen's damn project seriously when they lack the motivation to work. After some hesitation, Malcolm agrees to test the plan. At the city center, a crowd gathers around the notice board. Reading the job offer may find appealing, as it promises 3 meals a day along with a wage of 10 copper coins. However, some remain suspicious, suspecting a hidden scheme. Gradually, the people begin rejecting the offer outright. Lillian steps forward, chastising them for slandering Reen. She insists that he personally assured her that he would improve everyone's lives. The crowd bursts into laughter, dismissing her words, claiming she is only defending him because she harbors feelings for him. Determined, Lillian approaches the recruiter and declares that she and her father wish to apply for the project. The recruiter, however, informs her that only her father will be accepted. When she inquires why, he explains that she is underage. Reen had explicitly instructed him not to hire anyone below 18. Now they're worried about child labor laws. I thought this was a Chinese comic, as he would not tolerate any violations of his orders. Turning to her father, the recruiter outlines the wages and meals, instructing him to leave a handprint on the document and report to the construction site the next day. Lillian encourages her father to work hard, and he reassures her that he will not let Reen down. He reminds her to take care of her mother, who is sick and unable to work. The recruiter, overhearing their conversation, asks about his wife's condition. Upon confirming that she is indeed gravely ill, the recruiter informs him not to worry. Reen had ordered that the family members of any workers involved in the project could temporarily relocate to the workers' quarters. He explains that they may use it as a residence while the project is ongoing and return home once the construction is complete. Grateful. The man expresses his thanks, and the recruiter arranges for someone to escort them to the quarters. As the news spreads, the people begin to reconsider their stance. Doubt turns to curiosity, and soon, they start registering in large numbers, causing the crowd to grow even larger. Meanwhile, Reen reviews his rewards and discovers a blueprint for a lithium iron phosphate battery. Frustrated, he questions its usefulness without an electricity generator. He then shifts his focus to his next mission, finding 5 individuals with high stats. Initially, he considers training Leah, but after scanning her, he realizes that she has already reached her full potential. I could have told you Leah had full potential when she first brought in the tea. Deciding to scout for talent within the city, he prepares to venture out. Before he can leave, Lillian arrives and requests permission to enter, which he grants. She informs him that the workers at the construction site are slacking off. Shocked, he follows her to investigate. At the site, Lillian confronts her father, asking why he is neglecting his work. He denies slacking off, explaining that he has been exhausted since morning. The same complaint arises from the other workers. They all feel drained and lethargic. As a result, they decide to rest, prompting Lillian to scold them for their laziness. Determined to solve the issue, she drags Reen along, believing the workers will listen to him. However, upon scanning her father, Reen makes a startling discovery. Turning to Lillian, he informs her that they are not merely exhausted, they are cursed. Reen activates a newly acquired skill called prospecting, a technique he had initially intended to use after the construction was completed. However, given the circumstances, he has no choice but to utilize it now. This skill allows him to analyze the composition of rocks and assess the geological condition of the land. As the system begins its analysis, he finds no traces of valuable minerals or petroleum. Just as he is about to stop, he senses something unusual and instructs a worker to dig deeper. The man complies, and after some effort, they unearth a sinister-looking crystal. A sense of unease settles over the group as they wonder whether they have disturbed something that should have remained buried. Leah, taken aback by Reen's ability to detect the crystal, begins to question whether he is secretly a genius in magic. Even she, with her heightened senses, had failed to notice its presence, because Bro has that Sigma energy. Fellas, take notes. Reen issues an order to extract the crystal and secure it in a box. Turning to Leah, he inquires about the usual procedures for dealing with curses. She explains that the afflicted can visit a church to have a priest remove the curse or seek assistance from a high-level wizard. He absorbs the information and decisively instructs Lillian to accompany him, bringing her father along. They are going to see a priest. Lillian, still in disbelief, asks if her father is truly cursed. Reen reassures her, promising that the culprit will not escape justice. Upon arriving at the church, they are warmly greeted by a priestess who seems delighted to see Reen. He silently considers verifying her loyalty before requesting her assistance. Scanning her, he is surprised to find that her loyalty stands at an impressive 95. Even more shocking is the revelation that she is not human, she is an elf. The priestess introduces herself as Ayuria and asks how she may be of service. Reen explains the situation and allows her to examine Lillian's father. As she inspects him, her eyes glow with a radiant golden light, momentarily blinding the man. After a moment, she confirms Reen's suspicions. He is indeed cursed. Reen asks if she is capable of removing it, to which Ayuria responds by using her abilities to dispel the affliction. Lillian's father instantly feels a wave of relief and declares that he is well enough to return to work. However, Reen advises him to rest, insisting that they will resume work only after the underlying problem has been fully addressed. He then presents the ominous crystal to Ayuria, who examines it closely. She identifies it as a common crystal in the region. Though the amount of magic power stored within it is considerable, she explains that for the curse to take effect, a vast amount of magical energy had been condensed inside. However, she finds the situation peculiar. Despite possessing enough power to kill someone outright, the caster had merely induced fatigue. To her, this seems more like a prank than a genuine curse. Reen asks if such a crystal is easy to create. Ayuria responds that for a high-ranking wizard, crafting one would be effortless, and it would be just as easy to plant it at the construction site without detection, possibly on a daily basis. Suspicious, he inquires how she knows about his project. She nonchalantly responds that the church has been well aware of it, explaining that his initiative has significantly reduced the burden on their resources. Realizing that he needs to confront Malcolm, Reen contemplates his next move. Ayuria, sensing his dilemma, informs him that she knows someone capable of solving his problem. However, she warns that this individual is rather eccentric. They arrive in a grand mansion, the residence of Lady Selena. The former head of the Wizards Guild, Reen, knocks on the door, preparing himself to persuade her. Before he can react, Leah abruptly grabs him and pulls him back. A violent explosion erupts in front of them, leaving him momentarily dazed. Inside the mansion, a woman sighs in frustration. Selena mutters to herself, wondering why her latest experiment has failed yet again. Undeterred, she remains resolute, vowing not to give up until she achieves success. Selena refuses to help, stating that she is occupied with her research on a new magical device. Curious, Reen asks if she is developing a wand, but she scoffs at the suggestion, considering it an insult to her intellect. Leah, unimpressed by Selena's condescending attitude, warns her to watch her tone. Selena, unfazed, shifts her attention to Leah, noting the immense magical power she possesses. She proposes that Leah should stay and assist her with her experiments, promising to help Reen only after she achieves success in her research. Leah, irritated by her arrogance, asks if she even knows how to be polite. Tension escalates between them as they prepare to fight, but Reen steps in, quickly calming Leah down before the situation worsens. Damn, Reen, I thought we were about to have a cat fight. Turning his attention back to Selena, Reen glances at the table filled with magical tools and inquires whether she is creating a magical artifact. Selena nonchalantly informs him that the items scattered across the table are all failed prototypes. She reveals that she is attempting to develop a device capable of storing her powerful electric magic. Reen is taken aback and asks if she is trying to store electricity. Selena confirms this, explaining that every time her attempts fail, the device explodes, dismissing them. She tells them to leave, as she needs to resume her research. However, Reen seizes the opportunity and confidently states that he knows how to create a device that can store electricity. He then asks if she would be willing to help him in exchange for that knowledge. Selena scoffs, dismissing his claim as nonsense, but Reen assures her that he is serious. Pressing further, he asks if she will assist him if he succeeds in creating the device. After a brief pause, Selena agrees. If he can create the device, she promises not only to deal with Malcolm, but also to make the Wizards Guild acknowledge his authority. However, she warns that if he fails, she will not be responsible for his safety. Once outside, Reen begins contemplating where he can obtain a stable source of electricity. He quickly realizes that human wizards could serve as temporary power generators until he can construct proper ones. Without wasting time, he sets to work and successfully creates a lithium-ion battery. When he presents it to Selena, she immediately criticizes it, stating that it cannot store magic and will explode if she channels even a fraction of her power into it. Reen remains unfazed, assuring her that the battery has sufficient capacity. He then hands her a wire and instructs her to charge it, skeptical but intrigued. Selena takes the wire and releases a surge of electricity. To her astonishment, the battery absorbs the energy without detonating. Reen smirks and asks if that is all she can do, pointing out that the battery has not even reached half of its total capacity. Annoyed, Selena increases the intensity of her magic, pouring in even more energy. After some time, she grows tired and frustrated, wondering if the battery can truly store her magic. Reen, on the other hand, is stunned by the results. He calculates that the energy stored so far could power an electric vehicle for 3,000 kilometers, and yet she has managed to charge it to 87% on her own. Amused, he refers to her as a convenient battery bank. Now it is time to demonstrate his ingenuity. He connects the wires, and the battery successfully produces electricity. Selena, visibly impressed, asks if he can also use electric magic. Reen confidently responds that not only can he wield electric magic, but he can also make it so that everyone in Azling City can do the same. Perplexed, Selena questions how such a feat would be possible. Reen reveals that he possesses magical devices far more advanced than the battery she has just charged. He proposes that if she agrees to assist him, he will introduce her to a world where everyone, regardless of their magical ability, can use magic. Selena, captivated by his words, finally acknowledges his potential. Not gonna lie, my man's Riz is cooking right now. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Malcolm, who sits smugly in his office, convinced that Reen will soon come crawling to him, begging for help. However, before he can relish the thought any further, Selena suddenly appears before him. Caught off guard, Malcolm stares at her in confusion and demands to know why she is here. Selena glares at Malcolm, stating that he must have some guts to dare stand against Reen. Malcolm, feigning ignorance, nervously asks what she means, insisting that he would never think of doing such a thing. Without hesitation, she grabs him by the collar and demands that he confess. She reminds him that she has a bit of a temper, her tone laced with an unspoken threat. Terrified, Malcolm quickly caves and agrees to spill everything. He admits that he gathered all the mages and told them that Rein looked down on them, which enraged them. Beta male simp. Seizing the opportunity, he then instructed them to create cursed crystals and secretly place them at Rein's construction site. The curse drained the workers' energy, making them appear lazy in hopes that Rein would assume they were slacking off. His ultimate plan was for Rein to grow desperate, apologize to him, and seek his help. Once he finishes his confession, Selena clicks her tongue in irritation, calling him an idiot for failing to realize that he was being manipulated. Malcolm, confused, stares at her in disbelief. Without explaining further, she orders him to call back the mages immediately. Panicked, Malcolm scrambles to do as she commands. Meanwhile, Selena contacts Rein and informs him that she is taking care of the Wizards Guild. Rein thanks her, but she casually asks if he would like her to make Eldrick disappear. Rein declines, stating that there is no need. He intends to use Eldrick as bait to lure in the bigger players behind the scenes. Selena understands his reasoning and, with newfound excitement, eagerly asks when they will begin working on the projects he mentioned. Rein tells her to first get the mages to charge the batteries. Selena nods, acknowledging the instruction, and sets off to fulfill her task. At the same time, Eldrick meets with a masked man and informs him that Rein has successfully taken control of the Mage Association. The masked man, however, remains unfazed, assuring Eldrick that there is nothing to worry about. Aside from Selena, no one in the association poses any real threat. What truly concerns him is Rein's mysterious dam project. He warns that if the project succeeds as Rein claims, could drastically transform Aisling City, something they cannot allow to happen. Eldrick reassures him, stating that he already has a plan in motion. He has been secretly pressuring the nobles to inflate grain prices, tightening their grip on the city's food supply. The masked man narrows his eyes and asks if Eldrick is certain the nobles will align with him. Eldrick smirks, explaining that Rein had taken all their money, leaving them resentful. By offering them a chance to regain their lost wealth, he ensures their cooperation. He acknowledges the possibility of them betraying him in the future, but he is confident that they will never betray their own profits. Furthermore, he points out that Rein does not possess enough funds to sustain his project indefinitely. Meanwhile, at the marketplace, a merchant crudely kicks Lillian aside, sneering as he tells her to leave. Furious, she demands an explanation for the sudden surge in grain prices. The merchant, indifferent to her frustration, merely shrugs and reminds her that it is his supply, and he will sell it at whatever price he desires. Lillian recalls her promise to secure the grains for Rein at the lowest possible price. She glares at the merchant and warns him that Rein will not take kindly to such blatant extortion. The merchant, unfazed, smirks and proclaims that they are honest businessmen simply capitalizing on an opportunity. To further humiliate her, he steps on her and orders her to get lost. At the church, Ayuria is equally frustrated. Over the span of just 3 days, the price of grain has tripled, causing widespread concern. She turns to Illyria, her expression grim, and states that their current stockpile will not be enough for their people to survive the winter. She orders Illyria to secure the supplies they have and return them to the church, assuring her that she will figure out the rest. Additionally, she hands Illyria a bag of money. Illyria hesitates, taken aback by the amount, and protests that it is far too much. Normally, it would cost only a third of this sum to bribe the guards. Ayuria remains firm and instructs her to follow orders. Reluctantly, Illyria nods in compliance. However, before she can put it, the bag of money is suddenly snatched from her grasp. Startled, she turns to see none other than Leah, holding the stolen bag with a sly grin. At that moment, Rein steps forward. He asks Ayuria if she might be interested in making a deal. Ayuria narrows her eyes and demands to know what kind of business Rein has with her. Rein, unfazed, advises her to relax while speaking with him. Irritated, she scoffs and asks what nonsense he is spouting, insisting that there is no way elves would be in this city. He informs her that he is well aware of their true identities and assures her that he harbors no hostility toward them. My man be handling these girls like a true G. Ayuria studies him carefully before finally asking what he wants. Without hesitation, he states that he requires food supplies. She informs him that such a request may be beyond his capabilities. Reid inquires why. She explains that the food supply in Aisling City is controlled by 4 major noble families who have held their influence over the city for a century. While he may have intimidated a few individuals at the banquet, those were merely small players. Curious, Rein asks if she is well acquainted with the city. Ayuria nods, revealing that she has lived in Aisling City for 120 years. She further states that if Reen had not acted against the Adrian family during the banquet, negotiations might have been possible. Due to the ongoing war, food was already in short supply this year, and had grain prices remained stable, her people could have survived the winter. Listening to her concerns, Reen confidently promises that within half a month, the price of grain will drop significantly. Meanwhile, at the Klein family mansion, Augustus, the head of the household, sits at the head of an opulent table. Addressing his gathered partners, he declares that, thanks to Eldrick, the four great families have amassed an immense fortune. The assembled nobles raise their glasses in celebration, expressing their gratitude toward Eldrick for his role in their success. As they revel in their triumph, a butler enters the room and announces that Reen has invited Augustus to a banquet. A hush falls over the gathering. One of the nobles voices his concerns, speculating whether Reen intends to target them next. He admits that while his goal was merely to profit, he has no desire to risk his life in the process. Augustus, however, remains composed and reassures him. He reminds the group that Eldrick assured them everything they had done was legal. Furthermore, as long as the four noble families stand together, Reen will be powerless against them. With a confident smirk, he declares that they alone dictate the grain prices. No one, not even the Duke's son, can interfere. The nobles exchange glances before agreeing, convinced that if they seize this opportunity, their families will not experience poverty for the next century. Still, Augustus issues a warning. Should Reen push too hard, they will reduce grain prices by a mere 5 copper coins to pacify public outrage. However, if any among them dares to withdraw from their pact, he will ensure they pay the price. The nobles nod in agreement, reaffirming their unity. With their resolve solidified, Augustus announces that it is time to attend the banquet. Back at Reen's mansion, the butler enters the grand hall and respectfully informs his master that Augustus has arrived. Reen, seated at the head of the table, instructs him to allow them entry and to begin serving the meal. As Augustus and the nobles step inside, they greet Reen with feigned courtesy. Observing them, Reen comments that they still have much to learn. His gaze sweeps over their attire, and he questions why they appear so impoverished despite their control over the city's grain market. Augustus smoothly replies that they recently heard about his project and would like to contribute to it. Another noble quickly follows suit, claiming that they have already donated substantial funds and sold their grain at the lowest possible prices. Leah, unable to contain her disgust, calls them shameless for attempting to deceive Reen. Reen, however, does not react as expected. Instead, he smiles, seemingly impressed by their supposed generosity, and expresses his gratitude for their assistance. With a calm demeanor, he reveals the true reason for their invitation. He wishes to discuss business regarding grain. Augustus, believing he understands Reen's intentions, he assumes that Reen is running low on funds and preemptively states that 2 gold coins per sack is already a loss for them, feigning sympathy. The nobles attempt to maintain their act. However, Reen corrects them. They have misunderstood his intentions. To their shock, he states that he is not asking them to lower prices. He is asking them to raise them. He proposes increasing the price of grain to 4 gold coins per sack. The nobles stare at him, dumbfounded. Before they can recover, Reen continues, casually adding that he will be taking 30% of the commissions. Augustus confirms whether he truly instructed the price to be raised to 4 gold coins. Reen reminds him that he will receive a 30% commission from this transaction. Smirking, Augustus remarks that he initially thought Reen was just a privileged noble brat, but now he sees that he is just as shrewd a merchant as the rest. With Reen being so cooperative, Augustus believes the road ahead will be much smoother for them. He adds that had he known Reen was this reasonable, he would have sought him out much sooner. However, he acknowledges that without an official decree, they cannot lawfully raise the price. Thanking Reen, he then inquires when he wishes to make the announcement, informing them that the document, complete with the family's seal, is ready. Augustus states that they will post it after their meal. He warns them that anyone who dares to disobey him already knows the consequences. Augustus assures him that there will be no dissent. Back at the Klein family mansion, the others question Augustus about whether they should inform Eldrick, as the situation seems highly unusual. Enraged, Augustus shatters his wine glass, declaring that the more people who learn of this, the less profit they will make. He asserts that Reen lacks significant power and is merely using them to secure his own benefits. He insists that this matter must remain strictly between them, emphasizing that they have been presented with a golden opportunity to amass an immense fortune. One of the men admits that he has never been granted such a lucrative opportunity before, which is why he felt a moment of concern. But from now on, he will follow Augustus's lead without hesitation. Augustus laughs, declaring that from this moment onward, they will stand together. He then orders them to act swiftly, acquiring grain from the smaller merchants before the price escalates further, promising that this time they will reap unimaginable profits. Meanwhile, at Reen's mansion, Ayuria, seething with rage, denounces him as a traitor. She demands to know why he broke his promise to lower the price and accuses him of colluding with corrupt merchants. She warns him that the elves are not to be trifled with. Lillian attempts to placate her, reassuring her that Reen has vowed to bring the price down. However, Ayuria refuses to believe her, arguing that his partnership with those corrupt merchants contradicts his supposed intentions. Lillian urges her to trust him, convinced that he must have a plan. Ayuria, still unconvinced, directly asks Reen if he truly intends to raise the price. He calmly tells her not to worry, assuring her that the inflated price will not last long and that, within half a month, the market will collapse. Scoffing, Ayuria accuses him of being naive, claiming that he has no grasp of the world's cruelty. She asserts that in her 200 years of life, she has never seen the market decline following the price hike. Unfazed, Reen questions her, asking how much the price would have decreased had he simply threatened the merchants. 1 copper coin? 10 copper coins? She argues that, even so, he cannot justify raising the price from 2 gold coins to 4, as at least some families could have barely scraped together enough to afford a single bag and survive. If the price doubles, starvation will be inevitable. Reen counters her argument, stating that even at 2 gold coins per bag, people would have starved regardless. For the common folk of Aisling City, there is no real difference between 2 gold coins and 4. They would perish either way. Furious, Ayuria glares at him. He clarifies that he does not intend for the merchants to merely reduce the price by a few copper coins. His goal is to utterly ruin them. 7 days pass, and Reen is occupied with teaching Selena the fundamentals of batteries. He explains every detail of how a battery functions, captivating her with his knowledge. Once the lesson concludes, Leah enters, informing him that Ayuria has come once again. Annoyed, is it just me, or does Selena look just like Blake Lively? Reen questions whether she has nothing better to do. Selena interjects, explaining that Ayuria's anger stems from the fact that grain prices have soared due to his deliberate inflation, now reaching 7 gold coins per bag. Ayuria storms in, scolding him furiously and revealing that even minor nobles are struggling to afford grain. She demands to know if he is aware of the current cost of a single bag. Calmly, Reen asks Leah how many days have passed since the price hike. She promptly answers that 7 days have elapsed. He declares that the time has come to send those crook merchants to their downfall. Exasperated, Ayuria demands that he stop speaking in riddles and explain himself clearly. Reen admits that the reason he refrained from telling her earlier was to avoid arousing suspicion among the nobility. But now he is ready to disclose the truth. He calmly states that a bag of grain costs 4 gold coins and then poses a question. What is Aisling City truly lacking? Ayuria, puzzled, thinks for a moment before replying that nothing is missing. Smiling, Reen corrects her. What they lack are merchants selling grain. The realization dawns upon her, leaving her utterly stunned. She looks utterly stunned, and he asks if she understands now. In this city, what they lack is not only food but also merchants willing to sell it, and no one can resist the pull of greed. The price of grain in Aisling City has surged to 4 gold coins per bag. When this news reaches the merchants in neighboring towns, they will hastily flock to Aisling City, eager to capitalize on the opportunity for profit. Merchants from outside the city will bring an abundance of grain, and those 4 foolish nobles will undoubtedly seize the chance to acquire it, further fueling their insatiable desires. In doing so, Aisling City will amass the largest stockpile of grain in the entire empire. But merchants, when faced with the prospect of a 10,000% profit, lose all sense of reason, thinking only of wealth. He declares that after today, the 4 noble families will cease to exist. He instructs Leah to post another notice, stating that Ayuria has decided to sell the church's reserve grain in opposition to his methods, setting the price at 1 gold coin per bag. She is to make sure that word spreads to everyone. Ayuria, taken aback, questions why he is giving her such a favorable reputation. He simply responds that he does not possess any grain to sell. She counters, stating that she, too, has only a limited supply and asks if he expects her to sell everything she has. Refusing outright, she insists that the grain is vital for her elven tribe's survival through the winter. Selena scoffs at her reasoning, calling her naive. If she were in Ayuria's position, she would sell immediately, as delaying any further would only result in greater financial loss. Ayuria, unfazed, retorts that elves have no interest in wealth. They need only grain to sustain themselves. Reen, unwavering, orders her to follow his instructions, assuring her that her grain supply will only increase. He then turns to Selena and the Magic Association, entrusting them with sealing off the city. Selena confidently assures him that she will ensure no one escapes. With that, he commands them to proceed. Noticing Leah's unease, he inquires if something is wrong. She hesitates before admitting her concern. What if things do not go as planned? What if the merchants hold out for a few days, causing Iuria's supply to deplete before the strategy takes effect? In response, Reen outlines his approach, explaining that there are two types of schemes, a hidden plot and an open strategy. While a hidden plot can be countered, an open strategy is impossible to evade. The merchants from outside the city, blinded by their greed, will fight desperately to become rich. However, when they realize the prices will soon plummet, panic will set in. Why is this story exactly like the meme coin market, forcing them to sell rapidly? In this game, hesitation means financial ruin. At the Klein mansion, one of the men reports to Augustus that the church has announced the sale of grain at 1 gold coin per bag and anxiously asks for instructions. Another voice speaks up, alarmed, realizing that they had completely overlooked the church in their calculations. A third asks in a panic what their next move should be. Another, attempting to calm the situation, reassures them that the church likely does not have a vast reserve. Augustus, regaining his composure, orders them to send someone to the church immediately and buy as much grain as possible. At the church, a massive crowd has gathered, with everyone desperate to obtain grain. Iuria tries to maintain order, urging them not to push, assuring them that there is enough for everyone. However, the frantic crowd refuses to listen. Continuing to shove forward, she commands them to line up, but her words fall on deaf ears. A man arrives, flanked by guards, and sternly orders the crowd to cease their unruly behavior. Turning to Iuria, he informs her that this grain has been provided by the Pope himself and that this is merely the first batch. More will arrive the following day. Iuria nods in agreement but then turns to Reem with frustration, asking him not to burden her further. She demands to know what she is supposed to tell the Pope should he question her actions. The news delights the common folk, who rejoice at the prospect of more grain, while the merchants wear expressions of dismay, realizing that their lucrative business is crumbling before their eyes. One merchant clenches his fists, calculating his losses. He had purchased the grain for 60 silver coins per bag, and with transportation and other expenses, his total cost amounted to 95 silver. Even if he sells now, he can still make a modest 10 silver profit. However, he knows that if he hesitates any longer, his losses will become catastrophic. Resigning himself to the inevitable, he begins selling his grain. The moment the crowd notices, they surge toward him, eager to purchase at a lower price. The other merchants take note, realizing the danger of delay, and in a desperate scramble to cut their losses, they too begin selling at even lower prices. Observing the chaotic spectacle, Lee is astonished. It is unfolding exactly as Reen predicted. Reen, unfazed, explains that this is simply human nature. The merchants understand that if they hesitate, even for a second, they will suffer immense losses. The fear of financial ruin compels them to act. Leah, amazed, remarks that at this rate, the price of grain will drop back to 50 silver coins per bag, ensuring that Reen's project will succeed in time. With a smirk, he corrects her. She is underestimating the true impact. Once individuals like Augustus begin selling, grain will become the cheapest commodity in all of Aisling City. She asks Reen if he truly believes that Augustus and his subordinates will also sell their grain so recklessly to outsiders. After all, they paid at least 2 gold coins or more per bag. And besides, his crew is united. They will not turn on each other so easily. Reen tells her she is giving them far too much credit. When it comes to profit, no one will hold back. He continues, stating that the price of grain will no longer be an issue and that they should leave to discuss the second part of their deal. Meanwhile, at Augustus' estate, the butler hurriedly informs him that the out-of-town merchants are slashing grain prices, which have now plummeted to 75 silver coins per bag. Another man scoffs, calling it impossible, insisting that they control the grain supply. Where could these outsiders be acquiring so much grain? The butler firmly maintains that he is not lying. Augustus falls into deep thought, and then realization dawns upon him. His expression darkens with fury as he demands to know if Reen intends to ruin their families. His subordinates, alarmed, press him for an explanation. Seething, Augustus lays it out for them. Reen deliberately spread the news that grain prices were soaring, luring merchants from nearby towns. Once they arrived, he used the church's name to drive prices into freefall, triggering a panic that forced the merchants to sell at a loss. His men can hardly believe that such a cunning scheme was used against them. However, Augustus quickly regains his composure and announces that he has a counterplan. His men eagerly urge him to share it. He explains that, ultimately, the grain reserves will only last a few months. If they hoard their stock until desperation sets in, they will be able to sell it at an exorbitant price. If they remain steadfast and refuse to sell now, they will recoup their money. However, if even one of them betrays the agreement and sells, the entire plan will crumble. Roland, though visibly nervous, agrees and claims that he will return to have his grain stockpiled. However, his true intentions are different. He has already decided to sell in order to cut his losses. The other nobles notice his sudden departure and immediately realize that this is now every man for himself. One by one, they all take their leave, abandoning any pretense of unity. Augustus' butler steps forward, pledging to personally oversee their men and ensure they do not sell. Augustus' temper flares, and he kicks the butler aside, snapping that if they do not sell, the other three will. Without hesitation, he orders the immediate sale of all their grain. Back at Rein's mansion, he turns to Iuria and asks if the grain is now sufficient for her people. She furrows her brows, perplexed, remarking that it feels as though the more they sell, the more they receive in return. He explains that it is because they are selling at the peak and purchasing at the lowest point. At that moment, Lillian enters, reporting that prices have dropped once again. 1 gold coin can now buy 3 bags of grain. Turning back to Iuria, he asks if his words have not been proven true. If she buys now, she will gain 10 more bags. With that settled, he shifts the conversation and inquires whether they can now discuss their deal. Iuria eyes him warily and asks what kind of agreement he seeks to make with her elf tribe. His answer is simple yet audacious. He wants everything. She is momentarily stunned. Confused, she presses him for clarification. He elaborates that they can provide for all aspects of her tribe's daily needs, and whatever they require. He is willing to negotiate a deal. Iuria's expression turns nervous. She admits that such a decision is not hers to make, and that he must speak directly with their queen. He nods and asks her to arrange a meeting. At his request, she calls upon Ilaria, instructing her to deliver a letter to their queen. As Rein watches her leave, he reflects inwardly. With the grain crisis resolved, the nobles will be powerless to stir up trouble for some time. The magic association is already under his control, and it is only a matter of time before he takes hold of the church. At this moment, Eldric's only remaining advantages are his military and tax control. If Rein can seize control of the military, Eldric will be completely within his grasp. He must find a way to infiltrate their ranks. His thoughts are interrupted by Leah, who playfully tells him to relax more. She would gladly help him unwind. He dismisses the notion, stating that he is not tired. As he speaks, a commotion outside catches his attention. A man is engaged in a heated argument with Iuria regarding the soldiers. The man's frustration is evident as he exclaims that while he can tolerate some losses within Aisling City, being robbed by soldiers on his journey back is unacceptable. What is he supposed to do now? Rein steps forward. The man turns to him warily and demands to know who he is. With a smirk, Rein replies that he is someone interested in doing business with him. At the gate, a guard halts Lillian and demands to inspect her carriage. She calmly informs him that she is a citizen of Aisling City, carrying goods purchased in the city, and that she intends to travel to the elf tribe for business. Unmoved by her explanation, the guard orders his men to search the cart. Without hesitation, they begin tearing through her belongings, destroying everything in the cart. Lillian attempts to stop them, but her protests are ignored. After thoroughly ransacking the cart, the soldiers report to their superior that nothing suspicious has been found. Despite this, the officer orders her to pay the toll according to the rules, which she challenges him, demanding to know why she should pay after they had already destroyed her goods. His patience wears thin. He gives her an ultimatum. Either she pays or she leaves. Before she can argue further, another voice intervenes, instructing her to comply. Begrudgingly, she hands over the money, only for the guard to inform her that the toll has been increased to 5 silver coins under Rein's orders. Frustration builds within her as she realizes the absurdity of the situation. Her goods are worth no more than 3 silver coins, yet they're demanding 5. The guard, however, remains unfazed and tells her to leave if she refuses to pay. Suppressing her anger, she ultimately relents. Knowing that Rein will deal with them soon enough, she pays the toll, and they finally allow her to pass. Inside the carriage, Rein mutters curses at himself in self-deprecation. The merchant beside him, frowning in his words, warns him to be careful with his remarks. reminding him that Reen is the savior of Aisling City. Observing the conversation, the merchant finds him odd. Despite the soldier's claim that Reen was responsible for the toll increase, he continues to blame the guards instead. Sensing that the man is unfamiliar with the city, the merchant takes it upon himself to recount Reen's deeds, explaining that although he personally suffered financial losses due to the shifting market prices, this is the first time he has ever seen a lord who truly cares for his people. If given the opportunity, he would gladly serve under him. Reen continues to berate himself under his breath, mentioning the people he killed at the banquet. The merchant immediately realizes what he is referring to, dismissing the concern by stating that the Adrian family deserved their fate. Reen questions whether he knows them. The merchant confirms, explaining that anyone involved in business within Aisling City is well aware of the Adrian family. While many believe they amassed their wealth through casino operations, the truth is far more sinister. Their true source of income is human trafficking. Reen is momentarily stunned before his expression darkens. Already managing with limited manpower, he curses at the realization that the Adrians had dared to exploit his potential workforce. His mind begins formulating the next course of action. Before anything else, he must take control of the border guards. If internal chaos erupts, the neighboring countries will not hesitate to take advantage of the situation. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted by a commotion outside. Lillian, her patience fraying, questions why they are being charged another toll. A soldier responds that the toll for Aisling City is separate from the one at the border fort, implying that different rules apply. She immediately accuses him of lying, but the soldier remains indifferent, giving her the same ultimatum. Either she pays or she leaves, when she demands to know the amount. He smugly states that it is 1 gold coin. Stunned, she calls it outright robbery, but Reen instructs her to pay. Though brimming with anger, she reluctantly complies. The soldier, now noticing movement inside the carriage, becomes suspicious. He demands that all passengers disembark, as this is a border fort and every traveler must be inspected. Without hesitation, Reen steps out. He calmly tells them to proceed with the search if they must. The soldier, upon recognizing him, stiffens in shock.